weekend, and I didn't realize that it was going to delete all of my links and other things that I had all set up. So at last minute, I had to redo some of that. But we're here nonetheless, and we're ready to get started. Baruch Hashem. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope that you get a lot out of tonight's presentation of our learning, and that's really what the goal is, to make sure that we walk away with something practical. On a personal note, I just wanted to say that it always seems to me that when I'm learning one of Rabbi Nachman's lessons, it seems that it addresses just that particular issue in my personal life. So here we're going to be talking about Shabbos, and previously we were talking about Shabbos, and it's not always easy to observe Shabbos in the right atmosphere, with the right attitude, with the right language, with everything that we're talking about here is very exalted, but it's accessible, but it takes a lot of practice. And sometimes, depending on what people have going on in their life, it's not always easy. But knowing that we have these tools available is an amazing, amazing thing, because even if you're going through the rough time as I was, perhaps this Shabbos, this past week, you know that you have the tool to get out of it, and there'll be brighter days to follow, Baruch Hashem. So that's what I wanted to start out by saying. And we're going to get started right away tonight, because we have a lot to do. Tonight, God willing, we're going to be starting the halacha that I want to learn with you. Let me just find the right place for this computer. Thank you. But we're first going to finish up the Torah in Likutei Moharan. So we're up to Sif Vav in Likutei Moharan, and I'm not going to do any review tonight. Teresa, I'm glad you were able to join us, and if you missed last week, then feel free to listen to last week's recorded lesson, and as well for anybody else who's listening and wants to get up to speed, it's tremendously valuable to know the background of what we're going to be doing tonight. So let's go. And because of this, because we're drawing the Kedusha of Shabbos, the holiness of Shabbos, into the 6 days of the week, through this, we're going to be able to reveal the unity of Hashem Yisbarach. So we said previously that during the week, it's a situation of atzvos, of depression, of anxiety, of sadness, of challenge, distance from Hashem, right? These are the ideas of the week. We have a concept of an eved, a slave, because Hashem, Kiviyocho, appoints one of his malachim, known as Matat, to run the world. Whatever that means, it's obviously just another manifestation of Hashem. There are not, God forbid, two entities that control reality. There's only one, there's Hashem, but he allows himself to be further removed in a certain sense and make it appear as if there's a malach who's taking direction from him to run the world during the weekday. And the malach is an eved. The malach has to listen to Hashem. He's an eved. Avadim are not necessarily the most joyful people, in the sense that they have to follow orders. They don't have control over their own life. And similarly, we during the week have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that seems like it's a relationship of an eved to a master. We're working hard and we're doing things, and we're far away, and we don't have close access to his. Not close enough. Let me put it that way. Not close enough access to his love and his closeness. But on Shabbos, we have the exact opposite. What we have is Hashem controlling the world directly. So he got rid of the malach, took the middleman out of the picture, so to speak, and he's having a direct relationship with us. And what that does is it makes us into banim, sons, children, so that we have a father-child relationship with Hashem on Shabbos. That's very close. Now, we're saying we're going to be able to take that relationship and draw it into the 6 days of the week. So this is a very powerful concept, Because what we're saying is that the situation that we have during the week where we're feeling distant and things are challenging does not have to be maintained as the status quo. We can challenge that status quo. How? By having a Shabbos and then drawing that Shabbos into the weekday. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. So the drawing of the Kedusha, the holiness and the blessing of Shabbos into the weekday actually has the ability to transform the weekday into something much more special than it already is. And we said previously, not to give a full-blown review, but just a quick one-liner, that the way we do this is by watching what we speak, how we speak. We have to use Lashon HaKodesh, and it doesn't mean just Hebrew, it means sanctified speech. So really, what the Rebbe is teaching us is we hold the keys to a different Shabbos experience, and we hold the keys to a different weekday experience. And the keys lie within our mouth, in our dibur. And when our dibur on Shabbos is not like our dibur would be during the week, when our speech is not the same, then what happens is we have a more elevated Shabbos, and as a result of that, it draws itself into the weekday. Okay, so now, excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry, we had a lot of technical manias tonight. Baruch Hashem. Okay, onward. Now, why are the 6 days of the week so challenging? Because they're comprised of multiple disparate actions and activities. And that's demonstrated by the creation of the world itself. That on each day, Hashem performed a different type of work to create different things in the Bria, in creation. And this is totally contrary to what the human mind can comprehend. Meaning, what does that mean? To understand this in the human mind, that distinct and disparate actions can be drawn into a simple unification of Hashem. Lots of big words, but I'm going to explain it in a second. And in the human intellectual capacity, it's impossible to understand this. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about that if Hashem is one, then how could it be comprised of multiples? And if we see multiples, how could it be funneled into one? Either things are multiple or they're one, but they can't be both. Excuse me. And what we said was that the weekday, by definition, is comprised of multiples. We're doing lots of different activities, working and creating, and all of the Lamed Tes Malachos, the 39 activities that are prohibited on Shabbos, we're doing during the weekday. So we have a multiplicity of activities. And yet what we're saying is it's possible to take all those activities and turn them into one. In other words, to have the oneness of Hashem exist in a time when there's multiplicity as far as activities is the order of the day. So how could there be one in many, or many in one? We can't understand that, says the Rebbe, but we can work with it. It's only through Shabbos that we're zocha, that we merit to have. Hashem gave us a tremendous gift. If anybody's listening to this and they're not keeping Shabbos, please consider starting to keep Shabbos and to learn what it means and the beauty of it. It will be a tremendous bracha to you. As our rabbis have said, Matana tova yeshli bebeis ganazi. There's a good gift in my storehouse. The Shabbos Shema, and Shabbos is its name. Al Yedei Zeh Nizgala Achdus HaPashut, and it's through this, through Shabbos, that there is revealed this Achdus HaPashut, that this unity that rides above all disparity becomes evident. It becomes evident on Shabbos, meaning that there's only one Hashem, and the world is actually in oneness with Hashem. Ki Shabbos mora al amunas hayichud, because Shabbos is the demonstration, is the manifestation of emunah in the yichud of Hashem, meaning that we have faith, we have emunah that there's one Hashem, and He created us and created the world and told us what to do, and we rest on Shabbos to demonstrate that, to actualize that in our world. That we believe that we believe that all of the different kinds of activities are really one, are really coming from Hashem. And it's referred to as from the simple oneness of Hashem, the simple unity. That He created, meaning Hashem created reality during the 6 days of the week, and He rested on Shabbos. Nimtza, Sha'ayadei Shabbos, and as a result of this, it's through Shabbos, Nizgala Achdus HaPashut Yisbarach, that it's revealed the oneness of Hashem. So in other words, how do we demonstrate and bring the concept of oneness of Hashem into our world? By keeping Shabbos. By observing Shabbos, we are Megala, we reveal in this world of multiplicity, we reveal the oneness of Hashem, because we're demonstrating that we believe that Hashem created the world, that there's only one Hashem, and He created the world, and just like He worked on 6 days, creating all of the different actions, etc., so too, we work 6 days of the week, and then we rest on Shabbos. And by us doing that, we introduce into our physical realm the notion of oneness, the notion of Hashem is one, and that, in a nutshell, even if we experience challenge in our life, it still comes from the one Hashem. Even if we experience joy in our life, good things that we find pleasurable or satisfying, also comes from the oneness of Hashem. That everything comes from the oneness of Hashem. Okay. And this notion of the oneness of Hashem, the oneness of the unity, the oneness of His being, is precious even to Hashem Himself. As we find, Yachid v'Rabim halacha karabim. That the halacha is that, let's say you have disparate groups disputing what the halacha is, the law, the Jewish law is. So how do we decide which way to go? So many times the Gemara will say, Yachid v'Rabim, an individual versus the majority, halacha karabim. The halacha, the law, follows the rabbim. Why? Ki machmas shehem rabbim, because since they represent the majority, shekol echad yesh bo dea meshuna bechinas peulos mishtanos, that each person has a dea meshuna, each person has their own idea about the way they think things should be. Bechinas peulos mishtanos, just like there are different kinds of activities or actions or work, malachos, that people do. Just similar to all those different types of activities, there are different types of people with different ideas about how they think things should be, especially when it comes to a debate in halacha. But when they agree to one opinion, nimtza bechinas peulos mishtanos nasa bechinas achdus hapashut. It'll turn out that what we're doing is we're taking all the disparate opinions and we're unifying them into one simple unity. And this is very, very special in the eyes of Hashem Yisbarach. And that's why the halacha is like them. So again, just as an overview, our goal is to reframe our perception of reality. And what do I mean by that? I mean, till now, till learning this Torah that we're learning, you may have looked at the world as, well, sometimes I have good days and sometimes I have bad days, and Hashem is kind to me now, but I don't know what's going on this other day when things are hard, and I don't understand, and I'm struggling, or it's challenging for me, etc. And a person may think that one has nothing to do with the other, and they're just distinct distinct events. And the reality is, says the Rebbe, that's not the case. Everything comes from the same one source. And our job in this world, number one, by keeping Shabbos, and number two, by learning this and applying it in every facet of our lives, every facet. Someone hears good news at 10 o'clock in the morning, and God forbid they hear bad news at 10:30 in the morning. It's coming from the same source. You can stay connected to Hashem no matter what the experience is, and understand that this is part of his unity, even though to us they look very, very disparate, very, very different, worlds apart. V'gam kedei shelo laharbos machlokas b'Yisrael. So again, going back to the idea of halacha, think of a beis medrash, a study hall where you have, let's say, 100 talmidim and rabbanim, and they're discussing and they're arguing and they're sharing ideas and debating. What do? How do you decide? So take a vote. A lot of times they'll take a vote. And we do this so that we don't accentuate machlokas in Klal Yisrael. The Rebbe says, "V'gam kedei shelo laharbos machlokas b'Yisrael." We do this because we don't want there to be dispute, discord in Klal Yisrael. Very, very important, very, very challenging, because everybody's very committed to their perspective and their ideals and what they want. And it's challenging if somebody finds themselves as the yachid or in the minority to relinquish and go along with the majority. But when one understands the real reason why someone should do this, ultimately, doesn't mean that the person's opinion wasn't correct and that there's not necessarily a time and a place for that person's opinion. A lot of times in the Gemara, there'll be two opinions, and the halacha will follow one. It doesn't mean that the other one is worthless, God forbid. Not at all. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there at all. The reason why it's there is because there are times where we do paskin, we do follow the halacha according to that other person, maybe in an extenuating circumstance, or like in the machlokas, famous disputes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. They agreed about everything practically, except only in a few areas. And you'll say, well, obviously Beis Hillel knew what was going on more than Beis Shammai. Not at all. Not at all. In this world, before Mashiach, we paskin, we go according most often to Beis Hillel. But when Mashiach comes, then it's going to be all Beis Shammai. So you see, just because we paskin one way during a certain time doesn't mean that we always paskin that way. But when we have a majority and we have a minority, it's preferable to go according to the majority unless there's some other reason. And part of the reason the Rebbe is teaching us is because we want to minimize the opportunity for machlokas and Klal Yisrael. Ki'im lo kain, because if you're not going to do this, in other words, everybody get on board. At the end of the day, after all the debate is over, each and every person is going to have his own opinion, and there'll be no end to all the disparate fractions. B'Yisrael machlokas b'Yisrael, and then, God forbid, there'll be an outbreak. There'll be lots of discord in Klal Yisrael. Excuse me. And this is not what Hashem wants. He doesn't mind if there's dispute. He doesn't mind if there's a give and take, but he doesn't want there to be machlokas. Because his ratzon is, Hashem's ratzon, Hashem's desire is that there should be unity. It's very, very hard. This is not easy. And why is it so important that there be this unity? This unity? Because the Rebbe tells us that when there's unity below, then even above in Shemayim, there is a enhancement of the realization of Hashem's unity. The same notion, if anybody has daven mincha on Shabbos, the afternoon prayer, part of the Shemona Esrei says, Ata echad, you are one, v'shimcha echad, and your name is one. Umi ka'amcha Yisrael, and who is like your nation, Yisrael? Goy echad ba'aretz, a unique or a one nation in the land. So what do we see from this? We see this specifically on Shabbos, and we say it at a very important time on Shabbos, at the apex of Shabbos, one of the holiest times of Shabbos, the afternoon. We declare that Hashem is one, His name is one, and Klal Yisrael is one. Sha'ayadei Achdus, and that through this unity, Shenizgala b'Yisrael Amata, that Klal Yisrael is revealing down here below, Nizgala Achduso HaPachi Yisbarach Lamala. Then it's revealed Hashem's unity above. So, not only do we see the importance of unity in this world, but we also see that Klal Yisrael has the capacity to effectuate change even in Shemayim, even in the spiritual realms. When we are unified and when we declare Hashem's unity and we're unified, then it has a ripple effect. And the ripple effect goes up to Shemayim. Very, very powerful, very, very empowering, very important concept. Okay, Baruch Hashem. That's where I want to get up to in the Torah. Now, I'd like to start for the next several weeks, the halacha based on this Torah, based on specifically with the background of everything that we had about language and about all the different things that we discussed. I don't want to go through it now, but Nasan is going to give us a tremendous, tremendous insight on how to actualize the lesson that we were learning. And then, God willing, when we finish the halacha, we'll go back and finish as much of the Torah as we can before we run out of time for the semester. So the halacha we're learning now is in Lekutei Halachos, Hilchas Shutafim B'Karka, Beis, which means partners in land ownership, halacha Beis. So the halacha is in Choshen Mishpat, Kofen HaShutfin Zeh Ez Zeh Lasos Neger Umanal L'Chatzir. In Choshen Mishpat, which is one of the categories of the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, is the concept, the halacha, the law of partners who own land, in this case a courtyard, and the halacha is that one can force the other to put in a bar, to like lock the door, and a lock to protect the entranceway. So the halacha is that one partner can force the other to participate in creating this protection for the chatzir. And the halacha also says, Kofen hashutfin zeh lasos lechi v'kora l'mavoi. Similarly, partners can force one another, or the other, one can force the other, to participate in the establishment of a lechi and a korah of a mavoi. So now we have three concepts here, and I'll explain them very quickly because I want to go on to the halacha. The first is the mavoi. So a chatzir is a courtyard, but not a courtyard just in front of your own door. Let's assume that there's 10 houses surrounding a square that they all share in the backyards. That would be considered a chatzir. Fine. Let's say you had 4 or 5 or 10 units of these chatzeros, of these courtyards, and they were arranged in, let's say, a U shape going up and across and down. So the pathway leading through all of these courtyards, with some on the right and some on the left and some at the end, is called a mavoi. It's not a public domain. It's not a reshus harabim, meaning that it's not prohibited to carry in that area elementary, exactly, but it is a busy thoroughfare, and therefore the rabbis required that someone make some sort of distinction between the edge of this mavoi, right, and the major thoroughfare, which is the Rishus Harabim, public domain, where you're not allowed to carry anything on Shabbos. And you're not allowed to carry from the mavoi into the Rishus Harabim. So what did they require? They required lechi, a side beam on the doorpost of the entrance to the mavoi, or it's a machlokas, a korah, which is a cross beam across the entranceway. What that would do is that would indicate to anybody who's carrying in the mavoi, you may not go any further than the doorway of the mavoi. Remember that even though there are many people in the mavoi, you may get confused and think it's a reshus harabim and it's okay to carry in the public domain. It's not. It's not a reshus harabim, and it's not okay to carry in the reshus harabim. Therefore, if you're carrying something, stop here. Don't carry any further. Okay, that's it in a nutshell. The main point here is that these two halachos require or allow one partner to force the other partner to participate in any monetary expense that would be incurred to construct these things, either the door, the lock on the door, or the lechi and the korah, etc. All right, the halacha starts, halacha aleph. It's halacha aleph, or siman aleph, I meant to say, is going to be a quick review, but we'll do it, and this way we'll focus exactly on what Reb Nosson wants to share with us. According to that which is said in the words of Rabbeinu, meaning Rabbi Nachman, the Mamar Hamaskal Yemei Chanukah Hein B'chinas Shashua Olam Haba. So you're familiar with that now. The one that starts Yemei Chanukah, the days of Chanukah Hein B'chinas Shashua Olam Haba. This is an idea. This is a notion of the pleasure of the world to come. Remember that from the first session? Ayin Sham, look over there. Karav L'Sof HaMaimar Isa Sham. And he references towards the end of the Torah, towards the end of Rabbi Nachman's lesson, which is what we just did. We just did that part tonight. That the capacity, the ability to draw the holiness of Shabbos into the 6 days of the week, it's through this that we reveal the single unity of Hashem, mitoch pa'ulos mishtanos, right in the midst of lots of disparate types of activities. Ki b'chol hein b'chinas pa'ulos mishtanos, because the weekday is comprised of different activities. U'b'Shabbos, and on Shabbat niskal and b'chinas akdos hapashut yisbarach, there gets to be revealed the unity of Hashem, the Ayodei Mamshich and Hakdusha v'Hasimcha, and through drawing the holiness and the joy shel Shabbos of Shabbos l'sok sheishim yachol in 6 days of the week. Through this misgala b'chinas akdos hapashut, there gets to be revealed the unity of Hashem, the simple unity of Hashem, b'ulas mishtanos, in those different activities. So in other words, he's just summarizing the part that we did tonight, that we have the capacity to change the nature of a weekday from being comprised of lots of different at times confusing experiences and interactions and activities, and introduce the concept of the oneness Hashem right there in the weekday. L'zos habechina, v'hainu nesgalos achdus haposhem b'toch be'ulas b'shonos, hiyakar ma'od ha'afilu b'nei Hashem yisbarach. And this concept of accentuating the oneness of Hashem is valuable, very valuable, even to Hashem himself. Yakar ma'od b'china zo. This aspect, this item is very, very precious and valuable to Hashem. That's what Hashem created us for, in order that mankind should be able to introduce into the world, into this realm, the unity and the malchus, the kingship of Hashem. And by doing so, we get to put the finishing touches on creation. It's almost like sometimes with a new student, if you want to give them a feeling of success or whatever, let's say an artist or whatever, they might do most of the work and then give the final things to the student in order that that student should have the satisfaction of participating and putting the final steps into the project. Similarly, so in a certain sense, Hashem created a wonderful, wonderful universe, but he left it lacking in one aspect. That aspect is revealing him in the universe. Funny, right? In a certain sense, it is funny. He created a whole universe. Everything is working great. The only thing missing is the creator. When you think about it, it's kind of funny. But he put it into the ability of mankind to finish that work by introducing Hashem in this reality, in this realm. Because when we reveal the unity of Hashem down here below, we express the oneness of Hashem even above. Etc. You are one, your name is one, who is like your nation, Klal Yisrael, that is one. This is what we just did, so it's very fresh in our minds. Ayin Sham, look over there. And it's because of this that when they're debating which way the halacha should go, the halacha follows the majority. Because when the majority can unite behind one opinion, even though they have different ideas, even though they took different positions, but at the end of the day, they all decide, okay, I was overruled. Now that this is the halacha. When we reach that state, what happens is, when the rabbin come together and are of one opinion, this is a demonstrative. This demonstrates the oneness of Hashem, and it also minimizes machlokas. In a similar way, lahavdil, tonight is election day. Today is election day, or it was, and everybody's voting for a different candidate. But in the end, there's not going to be 14 governors and 23 congressmen for each area. There's going to be one. How does that happen? Because we go according to the rabbin. Now, you may agree or disagree with what the winner does ultimately, but that's the person who was going to fill that position. And it shows a unity when we do that. Ahavdil. Ayin Sham, look over there very well. All of this is done from the framework of Toda Halacha. Remember, we were talking when we started, and we said that the pleasure of Olam Haba is when someone can express gratitude to Hashem. If someone wants to have a taste of what it means to be in Olam Haba, the way to do it is to say thank you, and to really mean it. And to the extent that you say it and really mean it, that's the extent that you're going to have that thrill and that delight of experiencing Olam Haba, as well as halacha. Because we said learning halacha, not only do you learn what Hashem wants us to do, but we said that kol hashana halachos b'chol yom muftach lo shel olam haba. Everybody who learns halacha every day, it's guaranteed that they are able to become a resident of olam haba. Excuse me. So you see that learning halacha is also a notion of olam haba. Very, very pleasurable. That this is a concept of the pleasures of the world to come. And it's through this, that truth, and we went through this last time, that there were 4 sections of speech, right? Remember we said that they were, one was tshuva, ashiras, and tshuva, ashiras, no, I missed one. Tzedakah, Tshuva, Ashiras, and Malchus. Those were the 4 sections of speech. And we said that those become energized, those become activated with the emes that comes from the 3 names of Hashem, Kel, Elokim, and Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem. Why? Because Kel is an expression of tefillah, and tefillah is all about emes. Elokim is Torah, and Torah is all about emes. And Shidduchim v'zivugim is Yud Kei Vav Kei, because when a husband and wife get together, they possess the whole notion, they get 10 out of 10 portions of the Koach HaDibur, and Dibur plays an essential role as far as expressing the emes of Hashem. And all of this emes gets infused into the dibur. The dibur becomes very powerful at that point. Okay, that was just a quick review of that. I didn't mean to do it actually, but I did it. Etc. This is just an overview. And it's because of this, as a result of this, the simcha, the joy and the holiness, shel Shabbos, gets drawn from Shabbos into the 6 days of the week. And it's through this process. So now you understand like the spiritual quantum physics of what Shabbos does, how to activate the real power of Shabbos. You know it's with our speech, you know it's through emes, and what the real benefit of all of this? Sha'ashua olam haba, experiencing the delight of olam haba, even while we live in this world, and then positively affecting the weekday, so that we're capable of experiencing this kind of elation and closeness with Hashem, even during the weekday when there's a lot of other things going on. Okay, now we start an actual halacha. Simon Bays. This is shutafos. This is the concept of partners. Ki kishishnayim o shlosha v'kiyotza b'bnei Yisrael. Because when you have 2 or multiple members in Klal Yisrael, mishtatfim yachad, and they unite together. This is a concept of taking disparate items and bringing them together into one unification. And it's through this process of turning the many into the one. It's almost like a marriage. It's clear when 2 people get married that they're coming from 2 different places. They've had different life experience. They may share many experience priorities or hobbies or other things, but it's clear that they are very, very different. I hope my screen didn't freeze just now, but can you still hear me? I'm going to stop the camera and start it again. Let me do a test. Testing 1, 2, 3. I'm afraid that maybe we got disconnected. I think I'm disconnected. Let me log out and log back in very quickly. Okay, are we back on? Yeah, my computer went into sleepy mode and I lost it for a second. I think I'm back now. At least the picture's moving. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay, I'm going to assume yes. Good. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Okay, so again, what we were saying is that the idea of a husband and a wife, for example, they're going to be different. They're going to be very different by definition. The idea is not to say, well, they're very different. They can't get along. They have so much to work on. The idea is to say, yes, that's why we got married, to be able to work on coming together despite the differences that we have inherently. And through that unifying together, that's where the beauty of a marriage is. And we said that everything is dependent on Klal Yisrael below. So when Klal Yisrael below, everybody's coming from different perspectives, different opinions, etc. But when we unite, despite all of that, then that has a tremendous effect in Shemayim. And also with shutafim, with partners. Partners get together and ultimately they have to decide what they want to do or what should be done. They're not going to be partners for long if each one persists on having his own way all the time. Sometimes it goes one way, sometimes it goes the other way, but the bottom line is the partnership has to proceed together. And therefore, therefore, says Reb Nosson, each partner, is able to force the other into, when it comes to tikunei hachatzir, things that are necessary for the courtyard, repairs or protective measures, etc. Kagon, for example, to put up this bar, right, the bolt or the lock, or to put in the cross beam or the vertical beam in order, or more accurately, the vertical beam or the horizontal beam to permit carrying in the mavai on Shabbos, in that area that I described before. Excuse me. So a person one member can force the other to participate in these things that are good for the common dwelling of the chatzir, of the courtyard. Now you're going to hear something you never heard before. Even if you heard all of this before, Reb Nosson is now introducing brand new things that unless you learned this, you never heard. It's just unbelievable. Because a chatzir, a courtyard, is a private domain, and you need to set up a bolt and a lock, l'shamro, to guard it, to guard it from those dangerous things that come from the outside, the external threats that come from the people in the Rishus Harabim, in the public domain. Because the concept of a Rishus HaYachid, a private domain, is synonymous with the concept of Hashem, the unique one in the universe. So Rabim means multitude, danger, threats, potential for harm. Yachid, singular, means Hashem, and insulating oneself and protecting one's own environment. Parenthetically, the same thing goes for a person's senses, their eyes, their ears, what they see, what they choose to look at, what they listen to, their mouth, what they say, what goes in, what comes out. All of this we have to treat with protection in the sense of if a person allows their minds and their senses to be exposed to the wrong kinds of influence, then that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be the wrong kinds of influence, and it will have a detrimental effect on that person. So a little bit or a lot of it, we have to be protective and set up the appropriate safeguards to make sure that we don't damage our internal chatzer, the courtyard that lies within our hearts and minds. So Reb Nassim continues, Ki Rishus HaYachid, Hi B'chinas Rishus Yechido Shel Olam, because Rishus HaYachid, a private domain, is synonymous with the domain of Hashem, the unique one in the universe. Therefore, its height is 10 and its width is 4. Keneged Arba Osios Hashem Yud Vav K. So what this means is, in a Rishus Harabim, in a public domain, if someone were to have like a platform, and the platform would be a height of 10 tefachim, which is probably approximately 2.5 feet high, and it would have a length and a width of 4 by 4 amos, which is probably about 10, 12 feet, I guess. Those are just very round numbers, but if you have such a platform in the Rishus Harabim, in the public domain, then that platform has those minimum requirements, 4 by 4 in each direction, then it becomes a Rishus HaYachid. What he's demonstrating here is that even when an entity is in the Rishus Harabim, if they have the height of 10 tefachim, and they also have the width and the length of 4 by 4 amos, then it becomes a Rishus HaYachid. Then that platform becomes a Rishus HaYachid. It becomes a private domain, and that is reminiscent of Hashem himself, because Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is comprised of 4 letters. So as a kind of a remez, a hint that this is the measurement required for this area to now be considered a private domain versus a public domain, we look at the number 4 amos in each direction, and it reminds us of Hashem, meaning that Hashem is unique. Hashem is one. And just like this area it was previously a public domain, and because of its size now became a private domain, so too Hashem is Yachid. He's one. But when it comes to Rishus Harabim, the public domain, we're talking about the domain of the Sitra Achra, the forces from the other side. In other words, spiritually damaging forces, negative forces, forces that create doubt in our minds about our emunah and inspire us to sometimes, God forbid, choose to have a machlokas rather than to seek a peaceful solution to something. What it means is we're being influenced at that moment by these negative forces. We've got a little bit of work to do to rid ourselves of those forces. Ubezor kama ukamavor b'tikunim, ubezor kama pamim, and as explained in the Tikkunim and the Zohar many, many times. Because the main draw of the Sitra Achra, when I say the Sitra Achra, when he says it, it's referring to all of the dark, negative spiritual forces, but the main draw of those forces, it comes from this idea of multiplicity. It has to come from there. Why? Because if Hashem, who is only good and is only chesed, is one, That means that the opposite of good and chesed, which is the sitra achra, has to be comprised of the many. But that also means that when we take the many and we work hard to turn it into the one, what we do is we grab something from that other side and yank it into the other side. And that's what we do with the days of the week. We take the challenging days of the week and we inspire them with the Kedusha of Shabbos and turn them from the one and turn them from the many into the one and enhance them. Therefore, the Rishus Rabbim, the public domain, which is the concept of many different kinds of activities, Misham Yanikas HaSitra Achra, and it's from there that the Sitra Achra, the dark spiritual forces, gets its sustenance. But the private domain is the domain of Hashem, the one with a capital O of the world. Misham Ein Lahem Shum Yanika. And in the Rishus HaYachid, in the private domain, the Sitra Achra has no power. So the more that we can put into the private domain and protect the private domain, the better. The Alkain, and therefore, Habayis, Vahachatzir, a house and a courtyard, the Kiyotze Behem, or similar types of structures, Rishus HaYachid, they are private domains. Heim Mekomos Mishumarim Mehezek. By and large, these are places that are protected from being damaged. A person protects his home and his yard and his property from letting just anything happen to it. On your home, you have a lock, maybe you have an alarm system. And all of this is to make sure that the damage, those negative forces, there's an unsavory, there's an unsavory person walking around in the street, you close your door and you lock it. You want to keep that entity away from you, out of your Rishus HaYachid, out of your private domain. Because the grasp of the external forces and the Sitra Achra, I'm not going to keep translating Sitra Achra, just know that's the dark side, the other side, literally translated. The only place those forces come from are from disunity, disparateness. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, that a person can't be unique. You can't have your own style in a certain sense. You can't have your own preferences. Not at all. The Rebbe is always underscoring that we're all so unique, and that Hashem loves all the broad spectrum of Klal Yisrael, but we all band together to unite in the service of Hashem. That's how we take all the different aspects of Klal Yisrael and turn them into a cohesive unit to serve Hashem. But here what we're talking about, when we're talking about the chitzonim, the outsiders, and we're talking about the Sitra Achra, here what we're talking about are entities that have no interest in becoming one with Hashem. That's an important distinction. You can be unique, and Hashem will love you for your uniqueness. He created you with your uniqueness. He doesn't want you to blend in with everybody. He wants you to get along with everybody, but he doesn't want you to blend in with everybody, that you lose your identity amongst everybody else. He wants you to retain who you are. But your desire is to be unified with everybody and to serve Hashem with unity. But these other forces, they're only interested in upsetting. They're like anarchists. Their only purpose is to create disunity. And that's what we're talking about here. In case anybody had a question about that. So we say that this is where the Sitra Achra is coming from all of this disparateness. That all happens in the public domain. And it's from there that all the damaging things happen. Because all of the damages in the world and all of the stealings and the robbings Kulam, Boyim, and Hachitzonim, they all come from the outside. The person doesn't rob themselves. You're in your own house. You don't go into one cabinet and steal something and put it in another cabinet. Right? I mean, it's yours. You protect what's yours. Excuse me. If God forbid somebody has something stolen from them, it's someone who entered your private domain, God forbid, and took it. That's where it comes from. The Sitra Achra. Ki kol hagenovim hagazlonim, because all of the thefts and stealings, chol hamazikim sheba'olam, and all of the damaging things in the world, kulam heim Sitra dilahon. They all come from the other side. Now, I want to add just one quick parenthetical. That's not to say that a person doesn't have what to work on in their own home and their own heart. Obviously, we do. But by and large, a person will be very protective of what's inside their home, and they'll work on improving whatever they have, and loving and caring for the people in their home. And the real threats are usually more external. Because the external things come from all of the different types of activities and things that happen in the Rishus Harabim, in the public domain. The Alkain, and therefore Habayas v'Achatzav v'Kiyosah b'Shehem Rishus HaYachid v'Ein Shom Achizasam. Therefore, the house and the courtyard and other similar things to them, they're Rishus HaYachid, they're private domains, and there, in those private domains, the external forces don't have any power. Hopefully, that's what we try to prevent. Srichem lesakin lehem nego minal, and therefore you need to fix for them a bolt and a lock, the shomer mehezek, to guard them from damage. Do your share, do your part, do what you can to protect what you have in your heart, in your mind, in your home, in your family, from the damages of the outside world. You need to guard what you have going on in your Rishus HaYachid, in your private domain, and to make a guard, in order that the external elements and forces should not have any influence. And they shouldn't be able to come in and wreak havoc. This is the idea of a Rishus HaYachid. Because the people in the public domain, that is the Sitra Achra, the Hachitzonim, and the outsiders, who are hanging out in the public domain, they represent disparity, disunity, and their realm is in the outside world. Heim chafetzim. Now here Rav Nassan underscores what I said previously. Heim chafetzim mitzapim tamid. They are desiring and constantly looking forward. This aches b'rishus hayachid, to get a foothold in the private domain. The battle lines have already been drawn. Someone who doesn't realize this is very mistaken and too naive. The battle lines have already been drawn, and it's up to us to be qualitative about what we do, not only in our own homes, but what we allow into our homes, what we allow into our minds, what we allow into our ears, into our eyes. And these outside forces are constantly trying to gain entry into the inner sanctum, into the inner courtyard, into the private domain. Therefore, therefore, a person needs to set up a fence and a wall, for the private domain, and to enhance it, protect it through putting in a bolt, putting in a lock, in order that these outside forces should not have any grasp. They shouldn't make any headway into the private domain. So we're going to hold it over here. But you see already how, hopefully you see already, and especially if you review the first 4 lessons, that how Reb Nosson is taking the Rebbe's message and he's applying it at the same time in a broader sense and at the same time in a more narrow sense. He's focusing in on the concept of a Reshus HaRabim versus a Reshus HaYachid, and he's giving us advice and he's teaching us the way things are. And we have to take ownership and responsibility, and we can't be lazy. We have to be vigilant about setting up the right barriers to prevent, even in medicine, someone has an open wound. You got to put a barrier there. You need to put a dressing on. You need to put the right medication on. Otherwise, this thing is going to fester and never heal, and God forbid, only get worse. Similarly, so spiritually speaking, a person needs to be careful about what they allow in, and to know that they have to be protective of their home space. Again, I'm defining that whether it's the home space of the home itself, or a little bit more metaphorically, like the home space meaning inside someone's mind. And this is all about related to what we were discussing with regard to Shabbos, because Shabbos is a time where it makes a difference whether something's in Reshus HaYachid or Reshus HaRabim. During the week, we don't care. You walk outside, you walk inside. There's no distinction. For halachic reasons, there's no distinction between inside and outside. I can carry in between the two. Where does it make a difference? Where does the concepts of Reshus HaRabim and Reshus HaYachid really start to become accentuated and important? That's on Shabbos, when we have to make sure that we do not carry from one domain to the other. And so that's why Reb Nosson is applying what we've been learning about Shabbos and the weekday and everything that we've said till now to this lesson about Shabbos. So God willing, next week we'll continue with the halacha. Again, for anybody that wants to follow along, it's Lekutei Halachos, Hilchos Shutafim B'Karka, Halacha Beis. And I look forward to following along next time. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you enjoyed it and benefited from it. And more importantly, I hope that it gives you something to think about and to implement in a very practical way, not only on this coming Shabbos, but also during your weekday. Thank you for joining me. Have a good night. Thank you, Teresa and Maureen. And I don't know if you pronounce your name Rachel or Rachel. And Pamela, thank you very much. That's very kind. Maureen, you said thank you every week to give me insights that help. When I started learning Lekutei Moharan and Lekutei Halachos, I felt that Rabbi Nachman was healing me one point at a time, and I almost couldn't learn the next thing I wanted to learn fast enough. And then I realized that I really needed to go back and relearn. And as I learned and relearned, I continued to grow and I continue to grow. And not only do I continue to grow because of my learning, I continue to grow because of my failures. Because regardless of the fact that I sometimes fail, I feel and I know that I have the right tools available to me to implement next time. And not only does that encourage me, but it gives me focus, and I feel that I know that I'm growing with each and every experience that I have. So God willing, we take these lessons. They don't stay on the shelf. These are not ideas that we learn something and you say, wow, that was a great cheer. I heard some great thoughts, and now let's go on and do something else. No, these are thoughts that you take with you and you say, okay, I'm struggling in this area of my life and I want to apply these concepts to that area. How do I do it? And And you'll see as you continue, all you in the plural, that as you continue to do this with the Rebbe's lessons as well as Reb Nassan's lessons, you will find yourself growing, becoming more connected. If you haven't been compassionate till now, you'll find yourself becoming more compassionate. If you haven't been feeling close to Hashem, you'll find that you'll be getting closer to Hashem. Again, not that it's not a straight trajectory, always going up. Sometimes there's ups, sometimes there's downs. The Rebbe talks about this a lot, but that's all part of the growth process. So it's my hope and prayer that I grow from our learning and that everyone who learns it grows as well. And God willing, I learned a Gemara tonight in Maseches Makos that that when someone learns Torah with the masses, the multitudes, in other words, when someone learns Torah with others, because it has a collective enhancement on everybody. Not only the person teaching the lesson, but those learning, they learn from each other, we grow together, and that's really what we're all after through all of this learning. So God willing, that's what we'll be able to accomplish. Okay, I'm signing out. Have a good night, and thank you for joining me.